Good morning, everybody. Morning mementos. Daily recovery snack. Friday. Always a good day. January 23rd. Let's dive right in. Hope this finds everybody up and moving well. All right. 24 hours a day, Hazelton book. January 23rd, AA thought for the day. Alcoholics are people whose drinking got them into a blind alley. They haven't been able to learn anything from their drinking experiences. They are always making the same mistakes and suffering the same consequences over and over again. They refuse to admit they're alcoholic. They still think they can handle stuff. They won't swallow their pride and admit that they're different from ordinary drinkers. They won't face the fact that they must spend the rest of their lives without liquor. They can't visualize life without ever taking a drink. Am I out of this blind alley? That's the question. Am I out of this blind alley? Meditation for the day. I believe that God has all power. It is His to give and His to withhold. But He will not withhold it from the person who dwells near Him, because then it passes insensibly from God to that person. It is breathed in by the person who lives in God's presence. I will learn to live in God's presence, and then I will have those things which I desire of Him: strength, power, and joy. God's power is available to all who need it and are willing to accept it. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may get myself out of my way so that God's power may flow in. I pray that I may surrender myself to that power. Okie dokie. I have to get back to almost the last sentence of the first paragraph. They can't visualize life without ever taking a drink. It says we have to face the fact that we got to spend the rest of our lives without alcohol, drugs and alcohol in my particular situation. That was a bridge too far. There's a concept in recovery called 24-hour living. Just trying to concentrate on today. Because quite frankly, I started at kind of a young age doing these things. And when I first started having trouble and getting introduced to recovery and AA and, people suggesting that maybe I ought to try to just not drink as much or at all, it was mentioned several times that you can never drink again. Never smoke pot again, never do drugs, never do anything like that ever again for the rest of your life. And I was a relatively young man, a boy. I might have looked like a man, but I was kind of a boy still then, emotionally, mentally. I couldn't grasp it. I couldn't grasp it. Forever seemed too long. And frankly, for the first, 20 years that people were trying to tell me, maybe you might need to make some adjustments. I wasn't ready to hear any of it. I was just going to drink and use drugs differently. I had a fix in my mind. I was going to use it differently to where I wouldn't have these continuing repercussions from my drinking and my drugging. That I used them differently for sure. It got excessively more as time went on. That was pretty much the only difference, and the consequences got worse. But the 24-hour living concept breaks it down for me. A guy suggested it to me one time. He said, I couldn't see myself ever being able to not drink or drug again. I had problems doing it in a day or 2 or 3 days. And he suggested to me, if you can just break it down and try to think about it about just for today. You can just do it today. Can you do it for 24 hours? And at that point in time, I was in a rehabilitation center, and I'd already been there a couple of days, so it made sense to me that I could do today too. I couldn't get however old I was going to get the rest of my life. I couldn't understand how Chris could ever possibly get to a point to where he never drank again. That was just, for my mind and the way I used and for the time that I used, I couldn't get my head wrapped around it. I didn't believe I could do it. But the simple suggestions to kick that into just a day, today, And you can break that down to an hour, 3 hours, 15 minutes if you're having, trouble at a particular time. If you can just get through that time, you have the possibility of getting another day without it, another day sober, another day clean. That was huge in my journey. Anyway, not sure if that means much to anybody else, but hopefully I know what I meant. You guys just stay safe out there. We're getting ready to get some weather here in Virginia, and it looks like it's going to be a pretty significant weather event. So take good care of yourselves. Be safe. Don't go out if you don't have to. Use your common sense if you got any. I kind of liked it for a while. And Lord willing, I'll be back around tomorrow. Have a great Friday. Get her done and get prepared for this weather. Have a blessed day and look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Please like, subscribe, share this thing around if you feel drawn to do so. Thank you so much for being with me. Bye-bye.